Eh, Empiezas gira con Manitoba y una banda de estrellas increíbles. ¿Cómo te adaptas un tipo de Los Ángeles como tú con una leyenda como de Nueva York para una gira como esta? ¿Cómo os organizáis para hacer una gira, tipos de sitios tan diferentes y tan diferentes como sois?
¿En cuál? En esta, ¿no? Okay. Right now you're here in Madrid with Handsome Dick Manitoba. It's like a super group of stars, as you. How do you deal with the thing that you are a guy from LA and you hang out with a guy and a legend from New York in this tour? So how's the, I don't know, like the work to do, the intelligence, the I don't know, I don't have the dynamic. Right. Yeah, that's right. How's the dynamic from a guy from LA, a legend from LA to a legend to New York?
Well, I mean, we're all very different, and certainly, my lifestyle and my life in LA growing up when I did, as opposed to Manitoba's life growing up in New York. And he's a little older than me, so he grew up in the 50s, 60s, 70s. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s and stuff. So we've led very different lives. And obviously, LA and New York are very different, and they're both very different from Spain. But what Manitoba and I have both learned over the years is that Spain is the greatest place in the world to play rock and roll. So the dictators,
yes, it is.
The dictators always had a great following in Spain, even in the times when people sort of forgot about them in the United States, and there was a while where they hadn't made a record in a long time, and they didn't even really play the United States. They would still come out to Spain and play, and they always had a big following. I saw the Dictators in Spain in the 90s, and I saw how huge they were out here. And so that was kind of inspirational for me to be like, man, I got to get my band out to Spain. So the Streetwalking Cheetahs came out here. We started touring. We did well. I've always had a good following out here. I launched Trading Aces in Spain. Launching my solo career in Spain. So I think what Manitoba and I both really came to realize is that music is a universal language. So it doesn't matter that I grew up in LA and grew up around the beaches and surfing and skateboarding and all those LA things. Yeah. Valley girl, she's a valley girl. I grew up with that lifestyle. Manitoba grew up in New York. It's very, very different. But we both know, and the people that love our music in Spain have grown up with a different lifestyle than we have. But where we all find a kinship, where we all find a commonality and a unification is through music, and especially rock and roll music. Rock and roll music, it still means a lot in Spain. There's different parts of the world, including the United States, where it doesn't mean as much as it used to. But you come out here and people still really love and are passionate about rock and roll. So the thing that brings us all together, New York, LA, Spain, is rock and roll.
A ver, estamos hablando de vidas completamente diferentes, por supuesto. Creció 50, 60, 70 en New York. Él nació en los 70, creció, digamos, en los 80 en Los Ángeles. Lo que pasa es que coinciden, tienen como un lugar común. Sabes que España es como que el mejor lugar para el rock and roll. O sea, incluso The Dictators desde siempre han tenido, incluso cuando en Estados Unidos ya la cosa no está con ellos como también, aquí sí, siguen teniendo una gran legión de fans. Lo mismo que pasó con Street Walking Cheetahs. Él dice que él en los 90 vio a los Dictators aquí y se dio cuenta lo grandes que eran acá, ¿sabes? Entonces, como que a pesar de las diferencias que tienen entre ellos y que tienen con el público de España, porque España también tiene, el público español tiene otra realidad o vivió otra realidad, se dieron cuenta que la música al final es universal, ¿sabes? Y que ambos saben y encontraron ese lugar común que tienen, que es el rock and roll, porque en España sigue siendo importante. Sé que en los Estados Unidos ya no tanto, pero que en España sigue siendo importante y que es ese lugar común y por eso lo aprovechan.
Ok. La gira en España, es que me la había saltado.
No, sí,
hace muchos años, de Street Walking Cheetahs in Here, el año pasado Trading Aces también aquí, ahora proyecto solitario. ¿Cómo esperas que la gente, el público de aquí, atraiga tus canciones, le gusten? ¿Cómo se adapte a tu nuevo tema, a tu nuevo proyecto? A ver cómo... Ahí me leo yo.
No pasa nada, te digo. Okay, Street Walking Cheaters here in Spain a couple of years ago, as well Trading Aces. Right now, by yourself. how do you expect the reaction from the public? How do you expect it? How do you feel they're gonna feel this new tour?
I'm very confident that my audience is going to enjoy these solo shows and that they are going to enjoy and understand this musical direction of the solo record. It's not that far off from what I do in my other bands. It's still all rock and roll, and it's still, the show is very high energy. I'm doing some Cheetahs songs. I'm doing some Trading Aces songs. I'm doing some stuff I wrote with Eddie Spaghetti and James Williamson, and playing stuff off the solo record. So the show will have probably a bit more dynamics than you might get from, say, a Cheetahs show where everything's pretty loud and fast, but it's still going to be high energy. I know, I do this for a living. I know how to pace a rock and roll show. I know how to build the tension in a rock concert and keep it. So I've kind of very carefully designed the order of the songs, the way it flows, so that it's going to just kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the end, it's going to be what you always expect from me, crazy ass rock and roll show, a blast and fun. But you're going to hear some bluesier stuff, some soulful stuff, some of the poppier stuff. I'm just working it all in so that it doesn't really feel all that different than what I normally do. But I think people will be surprised and hopefully delighted by the fact that they're getting such a wide range of music from a guy who they think essentially is a punk rocker.
There's more than like Roxy Music. Like Roxy Music. There's more than this. A ver, dice que se siente como muy confiado, ¿viste? Como muy seguro, porque está segurísimo que lo van a disfrutar, porque no deja de ser rock and roll, y que todo, ¿sabes? Con una gran energía, ¿sabes? Como high energy de rock and roll. Por supuesto va a meter temas temas de Street Walking Cheetahs, de Trading Aces, con los de Spaghetti. Y lo que pasa es que, claro, como él tiene tantos años trabajando en esto, ha diseñado un setlist en un orden en el que sabe que va a mantener a la gente, ¿sabes? Como enganchada. O sea, sabe por dónde empezar, sabe cuál va a ser como el pico, para que todo el mundo esté como quien dice, como muy, muy metido. Y está segurísimo que lo van a disfrutar y que lo van a pasar bien.
Okay. Toda la vida en el rock and roll, muchos discos, muchas colaboraciones. ¿Cómo te las arreglas para haber publicado este disco en marzo y en abril publicar Por Rock When the Stream Walking Cheetahs?
Espera, ya va. ¿Esta?
Es esta.
No, pero es que no estabas aquí.
Ya, pero me
vale, okay, no pasa nada, lo cortamos después. Okay. All your life in rock and roll, a lot of records, a lot of collaborations as well. How do you deal with the thing that you publish your record in March, and in April you publish Pop Rocks with your band? Tell us the secret.
Well, I work very hard and I write a lot of songs. All the time. The Pop Rocks EP, which is the new EP by the Cheetahs, is a collection of power pop songs from our past record. So that record was easy to do because I didn't really have to do anything. It's basically a collection of what we thought was our most sort of power pop radio, kind of like we talked about, like our Cheap Trick songs, basically. It's our 5 most Cheap Trick sounding songs. And we put that out mainly to kind of remind people that we're still out there, because we put out a bunch of new music last year, but we don't have any, because I'm so busy with all of this. There's probably not new music coming out from the Cheetahs this year. So we thought instead we would at least put out a little EP of a reminder, like, hey, here's some really good songs we wrote. We're still here. But, the way that I generally pace myself is I put out 2-3 albums a year of all new material. So, there's the solo record this year. I also am on the new Fear album. I'm also on the new Manitoba stuff. I'm just finished the new Trading Aces record, which will be out next year. And I'm working on my next solo record, which will also come out next year. Plus, we've got another Fear record coming out. So It's a lot, which is why there probably won't be new cheetahs for, let's say, a year while I do this other stuff. Then I'll get back and work on some cheetah stuff. But generally the way I do it is I'm constantly recording. So all the time. When I get home, I go right into the studio. I keep writing. I keep recording. I just keep building up a pile of songs. And then I just decide, okay, this one's going to go on Trading Aces. This goes to the Cheetahs. I'll bring this one to Fear. This one Manitoba might like. So for me, it's actually very easy. I just write songs all the time and then find the best home for them.
It seems easy, but it's not easy. It's easy for you, but it's not easy. I'm the greatest. A ver, lo que dice es que este Pop Rocks, digamos, es como un EP que tenía como guardadito, ¿viste? Como en el cajón. Lo que pasa es que como no iba a sacar nada nuevo con los Street Walking Cheetahs, lo lanzan tipo, oye, estamos aquí, ¿sabes? Como para que la gente lo recuerde. Porque comentaba que el año pasado y que este año, de hecho, ha sido un año súper complicado, con muchísimo trabajo. Está con Fear, está con Manitoba, está con Trading Aces. Además, saca 2 y 3 discos por año. Es lo que se intenta. O sea, se ha marcado como sacar 2 o 3 discos por año. Entonces, el año que viene, digamos, no va a haber disco nuevo. O sea, este año no hubo disco de Street Walking Cheetahs y por eso sacó este EP. El de Trading Aces, viene un disco nuevo de Trading Aces el año que viene. Viene un disco de Fear, o sea, que va a salir el año que viene también. Entonces, él está constantemente trabajando. Tiene un montón de canciones, ¿sabes? Como una pila de 1000 canciones y dice, bueno, estaba para acá, o sea, como las piezas. Dice que no es difícil. Yo lo veo complicadete, pero para él, evidentemente no.
Ok. On the Road with the Ramones. Eres el coautor junto a Monte Merlick de la biografía de la ruta de Ramones. ¿Qué pensaste al principio cuando te ofrecieron participar en la obra? ¿Y esta experiencia fue la que te animó luego a escribir When the Walls of the Sound Meet the New York Underground?
On the Road with the Ramones, you co-wrote with Monte Merlick the biography of the Ramones, like road trip or something. Mm-hmm. What do you think when he offered to participate in that book, and if that situation makes you want to write When the Wall of Sound Meet the New York Underground?
So I met Monty through a mutual friend, and he was already talking to a publisher about writing sort of his memoirs of life on the road with the Ramones. And I think he chose me to co-write it with him because I too was a touring punk musician. So I understood the writing part of it and the organization part of it in terms of how you interview a lot of people and make a book out of that. But I also understood the lifestyle of going on the road and playing punk rock every night and, not making a lot of money and eating shit. So he kind of chose me to write the book with him. I didn't know him before we did the book. I was introduced to him and he liked what I was about. So we collaborated on that. That book did really well. It's in six different languages, 5 different pressings. And it kind of made me considered a Ramones expert. Really, really Monty is the expert, but when you write a book, people consider you an expert at something. So I was now considered a Ramones expert. And a few years later, Rhino Records approached me about writing a book about Phil Spector and specifically the album that he made with the Ramones and that whole period of both Phil Spector's life and the Ramones' life. And because I had already written the book and sort of proven that I was capable of doing it, and also because I knew all the principles, I knew all the Ramones, I knew all the people that were involved, it seemed like, again, someone else's idea, but like, hey, let's ask Frank. He seems like he could handle this. And so I was happy to do it because, at that point in my life, I was trying to basically, in addition to all the albums, I was trying to write a book a year. I swear to God. And I wrote 8 books over 8 years. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. I'd also like to point out I'm never writing a book again, but because it's for the exact reasons I just said, it's a lot. But basically, yes, On the Road with the Ramones did directly lead to the Wall of Sound Meets the New York Underground book. And a lot of that was just because Monty was kind enough to choose me as his collaborator.
A ver, conoció a Monty por unos amigos que tenía en común, digamos, que estaba con este tema de las memorias y todo esto. Y claro, él se interesó porque se enteró en ese momento, aunque él no lo sabía, que él también estaba en una banda de punk. O sea, un amigo como le dijo, mira, llama a este. Porque los otros periodistas que le presentaron antes como que no le funcionaban. ¿Sabes? Decía, este no me sirve. Entonces le dije, llama a este. Entonces, claro, cuando lo llamó, ahí se enteró que es que él tenía una banda de punk también. O sea, tipo, tú sabes lo que es. Sí. Tú sabes lo que es una banda de punk y tú sabes lo que es estar en el road, o sea, en el camino y en la gira con esta banda. Entonces, además dice que el libro funcionó súper bien. O sea, está en 6 idiomas. O sea, que ha sido impresionante. Entonces, claro, ¿qué pasa? A raíz de eso, que consideran a Monty el experto en los Ramones, también lo consideran a él. Pues bueno, si él ha colaborado, es que algo sabe, ¿no? Y algo ha aprendido. Entonces, los de Rhino estaban con un tema de un libro de Phil Spector y este momento, digamos, de las vidas de lo que era Phil Spector y los Ramones, o sea, cómo se juntaron. Entonces, claro, por supuesto, esto sin duda o sea, fue el detonante para hacer luego este libro, ¿sabes? Y además, que bueno, es que este señor ha hecho 8 libros, o sea, es un trabajón, por eso dice que no va a hacer más libros, ¿sabes? Como que enough, es bastante trabajo.
Yeah.
Enough, it's enough.
Yeah. It's fine.
Okay. Quedan 2 preguntas y ya vamos cerrando. De todo lo que haces en la música, ¿dónde te sientes más cómodo? ¿En solitario, de guitarrista de apoyo o de guitarrista y voz con tus propios temas? ¿Cómo te sientes más cómodo?
Where do you feel more comfortable? As a solo artist, as a guitar player, as a lead singer, in all of your scenarios or personas?
That's interesting. I probably feel the most comfortable when I am writing the material and leading the band. So it doesn't necessarily matter whether it's, for this conversation, it doesn't matter whether it's the Streetwalking Cheetahs or Trading Aces or Highway 61. Those are all bands where essentially I started the band. I had a musical vision. I collaborate with the other artists, but often am sort of the driving force as a songwriter. And as the songwriter and frontman of these bands, I'm playing guitar and singing because that's what I do. That's probably where I'm the most comfortable because I'm sort of driving the car, or I'm the captain of that ship, and I get to kind of go with my instincts. When I'm playing with other musicians, if I'm playing guitar with Fear or guitar with Manitoba or singing for James Williamson, I am still collaborating in all of those scenarios, and I am co-writing songs in all of those scenarios, but they are artistically driven by those folks. Lee Ving has been doing this longer than me, so I'm not going to tell Lee Ving what Fear should sound like. If I have some ideas, to contribute, it's still kind of going under what I understand to be the sound of Fear. If I'm writing with Manitoba, I know what the Dictators sound like. I know what New York punk sounds like, so I'm going to kind of write stuff that fits into that genre because that's his genre. Same thing with James Williamson, although James was a little different because James was really looking to kind of push and experiment, and even James wanted to step a bit out of his comfort zone. So I was lucky with James because he wanted to step out of his comfort zone and he wanted me by his side. But all of those are me working within sort of the playbook of another more established artist, and I love that challenge. But to be honest, I think I'm the most comfortable when I'm playing by my own rules.
A ver, obviamente dice que donde se sienta más cómodo es escribiendo y que sea él como el líder de la banda, o sea, el que la lleva, viste, como el capitán que lleva el barco, con todas sus bandas, obviamente, con Streetwalking Cheetahs, con Trading Aces, con Highway 61, o sea, son todas bandas que ha hecho él. O sea, claro, para él es, digamos, como fácil dirigirlas y tocar la guitarra y cantar, que es lo que él hace, ¿no? Que, por supuesto, está súper contento de estar con Fear y por supuestísimo está más contento de estar con Manitoba y con James Williamson. Lo que pasa, claro, es tipo, ¿cómo le voy a decir a Lee de Fear lo que tiene que hacer? O ¿cómo le voy a, sabes, si tiene en la carretera más años que yo? Entonces, también comenta que con James Williamson le pasó una cosa curiosa porque James también como que quería experimentar, ¿sabes? Entonces que llevan como muchos años aquí. Entonces, claro, él sabe lo que tiene que hacer para cada quien. O sea, sabe lo que va a escribir, sabe lo que se pero no es lo mismo. porque otro es el que dirige. Él se siente más cómodo, como quien dice, entre comillas, cuando le toca dirigir a él su proyecto, que finalmente es su banda.
Y The Last One, ¿ok? ¿Qué prefieres? ¿Fitness, literatura, producción de vídeo o música?
What do you prefer? I know. Fitness, literature, video production, or music? I know one that you don't like.
Well, it's not fitness.
Okay.
Well, I mean, of course. Listen, we all understand I'm in incredible shape, but no. For me, by the way, that ambulance is coming from me. I'm about to have a heart attack. Guys, never mind. For me, music is everything. So the only reason that I became a writer, and for that matter, even a filmmaker, because I've directed 3 movies and written 8 books. Most people I know that are film directors, that was their dream. They grew up wanting to be, a director. That's all they cared about. Most writers, that is their dream, to become a writer. My dream was to become a musician. But it's very, very difficult to make a living playing music. It's even more difficult to make a living playing rock and roll in this modern era because rock and roll isn't really the voice of the kids the way that it once was. So I started off I started playing music when I was 12 years old, and I was playing in bands when I was 14 years old, and I was touring by the time I was 16 years old, and I wasn't making any money. So because I always was a decent writer, my way to make money to pay my way through school when I was a young man was to be a writer. Okay. And so I developed that writing skill as a way to augment the fact that my passion was to play music, but it was difficult to make money. Then when I became I became a father, but then got divorced and I was now a single father, I needed to make more money. And I also needed a job that had like health insurance and stuff, So the only reason I took a job at a TV network, which resulted in me becoming a producer and a director, was to make more money to stay in the house with my kid. The only reason that I became an author was because I got divorced and I needed to make about $20,000 more a year than I was currently making. And it occurred to me that if I got a big book deal and got an advance and got some royalties and stuff, that maybe I could pull it off. So that stuff, don't get me wrong, I love directing. I still do it now. I love writing. These are all parts of my personality. They're all creative things I do. I'm an artist. It's what I do. Renaissance artist. But the reality is, the second I didn't have to write another book again because I was doing better financially, I haven't written a book since then. Okay. So it's obviously not that much of a passion. Okay. I'm good at it, but it's not my dream. Okay. I love directing. I still do it. It's a great day job. If I'm not making music, the second best thing I could do to make money and to be happy and fulfilled is to direct. I love it, but not as much as I like playing music. And the reality is, I direct when I'm not playing music. My priority, now that I've been doing this long enough that I've kind of figured out how to make a living playing music. Now, of course, it means I'm in 6 bands, but, I don't have time for this other stuff. And those other things aren't really my passion. I'm pretty good at them. I can make money doing them. Quite frankly, if I stopped playing music, I could make way more money as a director in TV. And I know that because I was a director at NBC for 12 years and I made a lot more money. But I was miserable. I hated it. Really? Well, because I'm working at these TV networks with all these, I know. It's not, it's another world, and it's a world where you're never in charge, and the person in charge of you is not an artist, and they only care about money. And that money has never been my driving force or my priority. Art, music, those are my driving force. That's my priority. So to answer your question, it's always music. Everything else I do is either to make money or because I enjoy it, but my passion is always music. Yeah.
A ver, que la razón realmente, o sea, todo es la música. Sabes que su sueño era ser músico y que sí que es verdad que ahora, digamos, es como más difícil vivir de esto. vivir de esto en el sentido de lo que es vivir el rock and roll, porque claro, en esta era moderna ya no es lo mismo y los chicos no están tan enganchados en eso, pero dice, o sea, a los 12 años ya empezó a tocar un instrumento, a los 14 años ya empezó a escribir sus propias canciones, a los 16 ya estaba de gira. Entonces, claro, esa era como su pasión y es lo que más le gustaba. Lo que pasa es que, bueno, luego fueron pasando cosas y se dio cuenta que como que eso no le funcionaba solamente para vivir. Entonces empezó con el tema de los libros, ¿sabes? Porque, claro, ahí qué pasa, ¿cómo se llama? Adelantos, ¿sabes? Para que lo puedas sacar, te van pagando poco a poco, entonces, claro, y puedes sacar dinero. Dice que cuando se convirtió en padre, pues también se dio cuenta que necesitaba más dinero, porque tienes un hijo y tienes que pagar seguros y tienes que pagar más de, no sé,